And let's go to our handy dandy whiteboard and let's erase whatever mumbo jumbo's on the back here. Hope there's nothing bad.
There's a lot of cool stuff going on there.
This is learning and innovation.
Is this where we're in Calder?
This was number guesser.
Yeah, it's where we're in Calder.
I mean, it's actually warmer and colder, or
Is it?
I mean,
It's lower. No, okay. It's
it's
just
not
number
hot
guesser.
and colder, which I still want to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe for a bonus session tomorrow, while y'all are interviewing, keep your minds on stuff. Yeah, right.
So we don't just sit and wait about portfolios and capstone and resumes and things while we're waiting our turn.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So I shall erase this. And now our existing data model, our existing ERD, an evaluation diagram, for our one list API is really kind of straightforward, right though? It's we have to-do items. You know, that has the ID and some other stuff as well, right? Nothing too crazy. But if you recall, back on the original API, Heroku to-do. If you recall, on the original API, I'm gonna have to actually call it, aren't I? Do you remember our access token by any chance? Anybody?
Spokesman. No, I don't know all the words.
I don't recall it either. But if you recall, the thing that we got back from the API had a user ID on it, right? That wasn't our spokesman.
We were 138.
Yeah, we were user 138. That's because in our one list API, we actually had a second entity inside of our program called a user. Now this user had some data about it. It had, of course, a primary key, that 138 that we were. It also, at least for simplicity's sake, only had an access token. That's the thing that we passed in the URL that we're kind of not passing anymore. But now we care about it, don't we?
Does the user table have a foreign key too where does the foreign key come from, and where do we get to see it, or is it generated, or?
Yeah, so now where should the user key go? Where should the foreign key go? It's a great question, Dante. Do you have a guess? It's going to go in one of two places. Here or here. Because really, this is a one-to-many relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
One user has many tasks. One task only belongs to one user. We can't share stuff. We can't share tasks. This isn't Trello or Jira or anything crazy. Amanda, you have your hand up.
I was going to guess that it goes because it's a one-to-many thing. It goes in user.
A user? So-
That's where the foreign key is going to go, pointing towards the list.
So we're going to be pointing this way. Right?
No, the other way. Yeah.
That's a really bad arrow.
It's a triangle on a line.
Looks like
Kinda
it's
looks like
PTP, yeah.
Pink Floyd album.
See the other way.
Why would it be the other way?
I see the
Why
other
would
way.
the arrow be
Yes.
the one thing instead of the many things?
I see it the other way.
So
We don't
we
need
have
no education.
Some people
Storm it
going
out.
here, some people going here. Right? Which way does it go? The actual user ID is going to be over here. Right here. So we're gonna have a
Codes.
one to many. Or many to one.
We'll see.
One to many or many to one are the exact same things.
What are you drawing?
Infinity sign.
Okay, it's
Sideways though, it's hard sideways. I don't know why.
Infinity.
It looks so ugly. No, mine, not yours. Yours is
All Are you just insulting me?
Oh, there you go.
Blanket insulting me?
How did you draw that? You drew it half and then switched, right?
No, it's literally. Oh god, I'm
A
so
sideways 8.
No, but the one below it looks amazing.
Thank you. I started here. I started here and went up and down and up.
Oh, you do it then. How is that one so symmetrical?
Because I don't know.
Because
Yeah,
you do.
lucky.
Because
Maybe
I'm
a 3
Because
o'clock.
Eddie Hand's got a surgeon
Can you
grace.
meet with me at 3 about this?
Yeah. But it's just an 8. Take that 8 motion.
But it's flipped,
Draw an 8.
and that's the trouble.
Draw an 8.
Flex direction, column.
Oh yeah. Turn your
That
paper
motion? Turn it
sideways.
sideways.
Draw an 8. Turn it back.
Wait, but like you can.
Anyways, as Joe wraps his mind around flex direction column row, we want to put our. I really don't want you to erase that. We want to put our foreign key here, and this is going to point to one user. So every time we create a task list,
Okay, I'm getting better. I'm getting so much better. I figured it out. 2 snakes.
It's 2 snakes.
But anyways,
It's 1 snake eating its tail.
so we're saying, hey, we have a user ID here. This is where we have our foreign key, and it's going to point to the primary key over here on user. So it's going to be pointing that way. How's that sound? Great, awesome, amazing.
So the foreign key is pointing to the right.
Correct. So how do we do this in C#? Still going to use Entity Framework. Inside of our models, because we have a second table, we're going to have a second model. New C# class. This model, we'll call it user.cs. Did it make it? It didn't make it.
Refresh, right?
Refresh, yeah. It looks at the file system again and be like, what's the latest files here? So let's make it real fast. It's no worries. There's namespace, to-do list API.models, public class user. And what properties does our user have? Prop int user, int ID, and prop string access token. Right, that's it. Nothing too crazy. If we want to get fancy, we can also add a prop date time created at equals date time dot now.
No time like the daytime now.
Holla. Be a really cool shirt. Sorry, anyways. Here we have our user class, right? I want to add this class as a table to my database. So where does it go? Database context. As another DB set.
Nice.
All right, prop DB set, users.
And then migration.
Then make a migration. Make a migration, again, because we've changed the structure of our database. Like our house used to have 1 room, now it has 2 rooms. We've changed the structure of our database. We need to run a migration. .NET EF, migrations, added user table. Once it do its things. Once it does its thing. Yeah, that sentence was all like, whee.
What is it?
What'd it do?
Okay.
It did a thing. It added migration. So if we check that out, we're like, hey. Create a table, users, primary key. Up and down. What do we got here? This looks good, right? Does this feel good?
That's the stuff we just said told us to do. And it's doing it. Always.
Yeah, right? It's meeting our expectations, which is awesome.
Confirmation.
Mm-hmm. Notice how there's no foreign key stuff in here yet. Because we haven't set that up yet.
Right.
That's okay. That's fine. I typically like to do this in multiple migrations just to make sure that it's all fine and dandy and correct. Why? The concept of baby steps. We don't want to try to do too much and then not test it. We want to go, hey, you know what? Let's make a table first. Because if we can't make a table, then that relationship doesn't mean anything to us. So, if we come back here, .NET data EF database update.
Or what's that thing in database that you, what's it called again at the end that we did? That you had to do a
DB set?
brand DB set?
Yep. Cool. Up to date. So now if I come back down here, PGCLI, movie database, the other one, haha. If I come in here, list out my tables, to-do list, to-do items and users, success. Yeah.
Now you got the message that your database was already up to date, but
That is sometimes a false positive.
okay.
Always better to check.
Yeah. It's always better to check. And there's also something else going on that I don't want to talk about right now, but like, it's always good to check. So here we are. Now let's talk about the new stuff, building that relationship. So we know from our talk this morning, if we flip around the whiteboard, that if we have a foreign key, to-do items now has another column on it called user ID. So let's add that column. Prop int user ID. And let's make this optional. All right? We want to make it optional because we already have data inside of our database. We don't know who created that data back inside of our database, right? So we need to make it optional. If we make it required, then we're going to have to figure out who's the default user for all the items that are already there. So we're going to want to make it optional. Optional is another word for nullable. Right? So as long as this is a nullable data type, we're okay. Is integer a nullable data type? Can an integer be null? Correct. It cannot be null. So what do we do here?
Make it a string.
We can make it a string, or we can use another feature of the language that we haven't talked about yet. That was almost a trick question. I want to see what all you came up with. You could make it a string, but if we add a question mark to it, it's now a nullable integer. Int?
Maybe?
So I just want to point out something else. Joe said the word maybe, and that's actually what it's called in functional programming. It's a maybe type.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just says, hey, this can be null or it can be an integer.
Wait,
It might be a thing. I know, it's fun. Phil, you have a question?
so a maybe type is an optional data type?
Yeah. We can throw that question mark on anything and now it's null.
Oh.
Date
That sounds
times.
like fun.
It is. Date times can't be null. Date time question mark is nullable.
Time?
Date
Did it
time?
happen? Maybe.
Kind of social construct?
Boolean? Maybe. So
That's
now we have true, false, or null for a Boolean
What?
type.
3 options.
What?
Oh boy.
Exactly.
Here
But
we go.
for what that means for us is this translates down into SQL that, hey, this can be an integer or it can be nothing, so it's optional.
So that's the way to unbreak C# for being so
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
Is it a ternary then?
That's what JavaScript does. They just put a question
No,
mark
it's
by
not
everything.
either or. Ternaries are
It
either
kind
or.
of is,
This
because
is
it's
like-
a maybe or a not maybe.
Well, this is a maybe we care or maybe
Yeah.
we don't care.
Yeah.
That says like we
Right.
should maybe just ignore this line. Whatever.
Kind of like it's
Still
kind of like
okay.
it's kind of more it exists than it does.
Not too deep in it.
Yeah. So now we have that. But this still isn't our foreign key. It's a foreign key to us. We know it's going to be driving towards a foreign key. But as of right now, at this point in time at 10:54, it's still just a column.
We reference it.
we have to point it to that class somehow.
Right.
So how do we say that an item has a user? Well, a user is just a property of an item now, right?
Mhm.
So prop user, user. That builds that foreign key relationship.
Can you explain that?
So we have a column on line 13. That's what's going to give us this thing right here. Not this, just this column. We can say, hey, we conveniently have something called user ID inside of our system. Maybe it's linked to somewhere else, who knows. It's just a column, it's just a nullable integer column.
Okay.
But we need to tell Entity Framework, hey, wait a minute, there's actually a relationship here. And that's what this line is doing right here.
To use, okay,
Yeah, so this property line 14 is this relationship.
gotcha.
It's saying, hey, each item belongs to a user. 1 and then 2.
How does line 13 know? How do they know each other?
Because it's literally called user ID.
Because in the other table it's user ID.
User ID, user.
Okay. Oh, okay, gotcha.
If this was called something else, like owner, then this would have to be called
Owner ID.
owner ID.
So this one a few times that in a blue actually matters what you call it.
Yes. There are ways around that, but today no.
Right. Okay.
So we'll go back to user B and then Amanda and then out.
I'm not quite sure how to word it. Okay, so is that saying that basically it can exist if it does, then it matters, but if it doesn't exist, then it doesn't matter?
Yeah.
That was my question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's saying that this is an optional relationship.
So the second user is pointing to the user ID above it, probably.
Yes.
And then that one, is that pointing to the other table?
Yep.
Okay.
These 3 things working in conjunction to form that relationship. This says where we're going, and this points to what column on this table it is. So hey, we're going to the user object, and we're relating it back to the thing that's called user ID.
Do you mind if we change that name so it's not the same? Just so that when we go back to our notes, it's like,
Really good practice. This is pretty much the standard practice.
okay.
What if user ID, you have it as an integer, what if the user ID wasn't an integer?
Then this would be different.
It'd just be a string.
Yeah, it'd be whatever the primary key is over on the user table. So like if this was a string or something or other, then this data type would reflect that.
I think I'm getting confused between user ID and like actual ID.
Yeah, the actual like
Something?
ID over here.
Maybe, so like an ID like of an object, but like a username when you sign into something.
Yeah, that's different. So the user ID is going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be the actual like row it's on.
Okay.
Yeah. The access token is going to be the username.
Thank you.
So the first user on that last line is pointing to that ID
Correct.
user, or is it pointing to the whole table?
Oh, which line?
The last line.
This line. This line is this blue user. This
Yep, that one.
whatever.
Green.
Green.
Teal.
Teal. What color is the rest?
That's
That one is
pointing to the
pointing
entire-
to the entire object. So that
Okay.
so that first that my mouse is on is pointing to this.
Okay.
Let's add a migration now.
Okay.
Because we've now changed the structure. Taken our house, added a second room, and added a door. So now, .NET EF migrations added user relationship. check on the migration now. Just to see it. Adding a column. User ID to do items. It's nullable. Create an index. Let's ignore that for a second. And add foreign key. We're saying, hey, you know what? Let's call that the table to do items has a column user ID that points to users. Points to the ID over there. That's our foreign key.
That was autofill, right?
What?
That was autofill.
Yeah. Yep. Auto generator. I should never actually modify this unless I know what I'm doing, and even if I know what I'm doing, I probably shouldn't do it anyways.
This is a history kind of, right?
Yeah. If this is ever wrong, I'm going to remove it, change my POCOs to match what should be right, and then rerun the migration. Cool. So let's run the migration. .NET EF database update. Cool. So now that we have our added user relationship, so now that we've added that relationship, now we get to use it. Yay, right? I like this. This is the fun part. So how do we actually use this? Let's head into Postman and let's define a few things before we get started, because I was like working with a definition. I like working with wireframes and things to go against because I get lost. So we are going to say, hey, we're going to add now a parameter to all of our routes called access token.
And you're gonna do that in Postman, not in your React code?
Not in my README.
Not in your React code?
We don't have a React app yet. Or we do,
We do.
but I like testing stuff in Postman.
Okay, then let me back up and ask the question that I thought I was asking. It's gonna stop at items because that's as far as the code goes. If you had access token, isn't it like when we worked on the React app yesterday, it didn't care about the access token because that wasn't like the route stops you for it.
Yeah, we're going to tell it don't care about the access token. You're correct. Right now, if I pass an access token like we were doing in the React app yesterday, it's not going to care what we pass in.
Right.
But now that we control the API, we can do that. And now that we care about the access token.
The access token would be the.
Yeah, it's going to be whatever that is over there. Let's do, what's someone's favorite word?
Nemesis.
Nemesis. Nemesis, right?
Yes,
Is that you right?
that is correct. That is spelled correctly.
Yes.
Gold
I
star.
know. I'm excited for that. So anyways, if we send this, I just want to make sure it still works. It still works, yay. Cool. Here we are. It still works. But now I want to be able to restrict that down and use that as kind of my authentication piece now. So that means that, hey, whenever I do a post to create a new item, I want to look at that access token, find that user, and populate the user ID of the to-do list item with that user.
Nice.
Right? Because we want to say, hey, that to-do list item that's incoming belongs to that user. That sound good?
Yeah.
So now we're going to go and we're going to modify our code here. What'd you say, Joe?
This is what I need for my capstone because I'm doing chat or
Probably.
question answer key.
Probably, yeah. Ah! That one. All right, so now, where is our put? Not our put, our post. So our post now takes a second parameter, right? It takes the access token. Ooh.
Spicy.
From query, string, access token. from query is a new decorator that we're learning about today as well. That just says, hey, this parameter is going to be coming to us, but I want you to look inside of the query string for it. That's all. Add the, those parameters and stuff after the question mark that we see sometimes, like q equals blah or whatever. Yeah, that's query string parameters.
And did we replace something more, or was it, did you add that?
I-
Some query, did you just add it to the end?
Yep. So now what do we want to do? We want to get the user that has the access token. And we want to set the item.user_id equal to the user.id. Right before we save it, right? We're going to go, hey, incoming. We have a new item that we're adding to a to-do list, but it belongs to a user. We're saying, hey, let's build that relationship based on what we're being passed. Does that sound good? I'm going to add one more caveat to this. I'm going to say, hey, if the user doesn't exist, make it. Ooh. Yeah. so let's do this. How do we get the user? Well, it's var user equals db dot users. First or default. User dot access token equals the access token. There we go. If
User doesn't exist.
user equals null, user equals new user. Is that the right user? That is not the right user. No. Maybe.
Yeah.
User.user?
Should be.
Oh no,
It's
That
user.
is the right.
one is the table.
That is the right one. Yep. Okay. That is the right user. We got access token equals access token. And then db.save changes.
What's the syntax there with the squirrely brackets after user? Is that like basically, I thought it was supposed to be parentheses? Because it's a class, so you're.
So it's the initializing syntax.
Yeah, because it's a user is a class, so that's why you
Yeah.
use
And we're saying, hey, we have some default values here that I want to use whenever I create this new object. So instead of me doing user equals new user parentheses, semicolon, new line, user.access token equals access token, I can do that all in the same line of code with my squiggles. Going, hey, create me a new user object, use these values.
But who's assigning the access token? There's more logic to that, right?
We create it whenever we do the post, whatever we send in.
Yeah.
This is very open.
Oh, okay.
Because this is how we could use like 4 randomly generated words as our access.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but if you're making one, but there's no access token. With that the if logic, right?
I think what he's asking is where do we pass how does it know in the URL that you're passing it an access token? Is that from query? Is that what that is?
No, I know, yeah, I get that. But you typed that in.
Yes, I did.
So
I
you
made
assigned that to
Yes.
our that's our user now.
Yep.
We're the one user that's doing that.
Yep.
But if there's a user that's null, where
Then
does that
we're-
access token come from?
We're creating that. So what we're having is that we're passing it in Nemesis.
Mm.
We're going, hey, do we have a user with that access token?
Yeah.
The first time we hit it, we don't.
Mhm.
So we're going to go in and make that user.
Yeah, I get that. But there's no access token being created because you didn't type it in and post
No,
it.
he did type it in, but when he goes to put it in the bucket's empty.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
You had the polarity reversed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you need the token?
Do I need the token?
Yeah.
Do you create a user? Yes.
No, I mean, like, I pulled it up. I didn't know if you
So what happens if you don't?
Not yet.
type in?
I will. Yeah. What happens if they don't give us an access token? What should we do?
Break.
Let's break it.
Try catch.
If access token, if string.is null or white space. So if access token doesn't exist, if it's an empty string or if it's not something, I want to return a unauthorized.
Ooh.
Could you
I
just
think-
say break there?
Nope. I could just say return, but I have to return something. Break is more for loops, not for requests. Cool. So we have that. We have that. After we get our user, the very last thing, let's actually build that relationship now. Something goofy. Dot user ID equals user.id. Nothing too crazy. I would think not, right? We're saying, hey, if this user exists, grab it. If it doesn't exist, make it. Once we have our user, let's actually say, hey, you know what, this item has a user ID of that incoming user. Cool. So now I'm using cool a lot today. I'm sorry. So let's run this and see what happens. Now if I send this as a post, come into my body. If I send it, loading 500 server error.
Oh,
When you go and string to int or something,
unhandled exception.
you
Insert violates foreign key restraint.
can give a string one's an int or something.
Int.
Up at the top when you put it into the.
That's all fine. That's all fine.
You
Oh,
can
it does say string, so you should be fine.
Am I missing something obvious?
.NET what's run?
No, it's running.
It's run.
Over here.
What if we got rid of that if statement?
I'm going to try it again. Still is not happy.
Oh, Q equals question mark access token? Because it's from query, right?
No, it should be access token here.
But in the post, in Postman, does it need to be Q equals in the?
Nope. Hey, 401 unauthorized. Authorization works. So now we have a bug in our parent code. So let's kind of dissect this. First off, I want to check to make sure that my user exists. Because if my user exists, then I know that my problem is on the assigning side. If it doesn't exist, I know my problem is on the user creation side. So I'm going to head over here, PG CLI, my database, select star from users. That's a problem. So I'm going to write out the access token. Got to make sure that we're getting the right access token. I'm going to show you a really cool debugging skill set.
Nice.
Right? So, if we recall back in JavaScript days, we had the Chrome debugger, right? We can pause execution of our JavaScript stuff and see what's going on. We can do the same thing here in C#. We can set breakpoints and see what's going on. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to stop this, my terminal, and then I'm going to set a breakpoint right here by clicking next to the number, little red dot. Then in VS Code, see where it says no bugs? I'm going to click that, and up here I have a play button. That play button is going to spin up my debugger. That debugger is going to now say, okay, we're going to spin up our code, spin up our server, still spin up a server at the exact same point. But now, whenever we run the code and hit that endpoint, it's going to go, ooh, I'm going to stop and we can actually see what's going on. Just like we could in the JavaScript one, we could see the values of variables, step through functions, and all that other jazz. It will do a thing for us.
You just clicked on that line of code right there, right?
Big scroll bar there.
Yeah. Cool. It's running, it's working. You notice now I have my extra set of debug tools up here, which allow me to pause, step through, step up over, restart, and stop. So now, if I hit send, access token is Nemesis, something goofy is a model, that's good. Come down here. User is null, as expected. I see it. So the pro is that our integer is still 0. Someone see the one line of code that we forgot?
We forgot to set the daytime default.
No, something with the user ID, right? It's save changes.
No, it's the primary key.
I forgot to actually add it to my database.
Oh.
I created it, but I didn't add it to my database. It's like, what line? I knew it was something.
That's why the ID was 0?
Yeah. Because like, oh, you just have a user object. That's it. So now let's run it. I'm now very confident that it will work.
How do you do a debugger without a mouse? Because that looked pretty helpful using a mouse there.
There are keyboard commands. The buttons are, it's like F10 through F12.
Oh, okay.
And then some shifts in there, some F5 as well. I forget them. They're like really weird keyboard shortcuts.
So it like changes.
Yeah, and really what I like to do is that the mouse forces me to slow down to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That looks better. Hey! Woo! I like it. So now this thing has a user ID of 1. Now we're tracking who it belongs to. Amanda.
This is why our response.json data has so much garbage in it when we pull the weather API. It's
Yeah.
all the different tables in the database.
Oh my
It's
god.
beautiful, isn't it? When
I
everyone
mean,
just
that is
clears
not
up
the
like
adjective
that.
I would have gone for, but it's cool to see it.
Yeah. This is what leads to bigger data structures. Because now we're pulling in more stuff, more things, so to speak.
But you don't really need to see that. You can just
Nope.
apply it.
So now what we can do,
Updated.
we can now create a view model that doesn't have the user on it, but has the user ID.
There you go.
And will just tell us Nemesis or the items that belong to Nemesis are blocked.
There you go.
So we'll do the other 4 endpoints as well, just to kind of clean this up and kind of come full circle. So the next thing that I would want to do is, of course, the read, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I do get all for Nemesis, I only want my Nemesis's to-do list, not mine. So we have a couple things here. So now,
Oh yeah, 'cause it shouldn't show that if it's not. You're a security breach.
yeah. And that is a flavor of a security issue, where it's like, who can see what? If I ended up seeing everything, if the Facebook feed query drops the where user ID equals Mark and I see everyone's feed, ooh, Yeah, I know,
I
right?
don't see that.
No, I don't.
Not most of it.
So I don't really look at mine either. So I'm gonna have the same thing here: string access token, saying, "Hey, our get now has an access token." And now what we can do is we need to get the user. Var user equals db.users.first or default. U.access token equals access token. And then now we need to do a little bit of filtering here, right? Dot where to-do list item t.userid equals user.id. How's this feel? Amanda, you have some questions?
Do we need to do a thing here if the get is to an access token that doesn't exist for a user?
Yes, we will.
So you're just searching like where the IDs match in both
Yeah.
tables?
Yeah. Saying, hey, you're giving me an access token. I think someone's going on that side. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, it's saying, hey, you know what? Give me a user. I now found out who we are based on the access token. Yeah, we need to do some pair checking here. Give me all of their to-do list items. So let's do a little bit of error checking here, right? What's the errors that we could have? No access token and a bad access token. Or not a bad one, because no access tokens are bad. One that doesn't exist yet. So,
Is that invalid?
so there's our if it doesn't exist. But if I now type in, instead of Nemesis, if I type in bagels, and I send it,
Shouldn't see anything there.
yeah, I shouldn't see anything.
And it won't create a new one for
Yeah, so now, if user equals null, what I want to return an empty array, right?
Mhm.
So return a new list of to-do items.
Cool.
Let's try it out. That's the body.
you. You do that so it won't break their React app. That's gonna like say when it doesn't get from the back, it's gonna freak out.
Yeah. Is that running somewhere? There we go. Send. So bagels doesn't have anything to do, but my Nemesis does. Feeling good so far?
Mhm.
Cool. I like it. We got a few minutes now to finish up the rest. Because now every time that we do that, so our get's updated, our post is updated, get one.
So even though we're joining the tables, we can't actually put or update any information that's a foreign key in that table.
So what are you looking to update and say your question again?
So if we're displaying our to-do item table
Yep.
with our user information.
Yes.
Now, if we wanted to update our user information, we couldn't just update this table. That's not going to do anything. We can't access that data there.
No, this, you could point this, so in the frame of to-do items, you can point this to a new user.
Point it to the user.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have one user
Okay.
right now of ID 1, If
Okay.
we add a second user, we could change this to point to ID to
Okay.
if we give that functionality first.
Okay.
We can't change anything here on the users table without going to the users table.
Okay.
So how are we feeling with this so far? Good. Let's take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Because really, I'm sure there's some of you that are going, well, Mark, this is cool, but I'm not actually doing a join. I'm only doing a where, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing two separate queries, right? I'm not actually doing a join. Let's actually do a join here. Whew. I know. In order for us to do that, we have to update our models. Because we've only defined technically half of the relationship. It still works because that's the important half. Because really the important half for this whole relationship is this right here, right?
Right.
This is kind of the key to everything. But if I go to my POCOs, my models, if I go to the user model, this has no idea that it has items.
But it doesn't care. Or doesn't care.
We can make it care.
We do care.
Okay.
Yeah, we do care.
We do care. Because now we can reduce that two queries that we're doing on the other controller down to one query. I know. But we need to make this user care about the other ones. So we need to define the other half of the relationship. We know a user can have many items, right?
Yes.
What's a thing of many items? Hold on,
I'm
Liv.
so sorry. Before you go on, can you go back and explain what you said a second ago? That we can take those two queries and
Yeah. Merge them into one?
yeah.
Yeah, because right now, our get right here, this is doing one query.
Right.
We're checking to see if it's a thing or not.
Right.
And then we're running a second query to actually get the items. So this isn't doing a join, this is doing two singular queries. Select star from users where access token equals access token. Oh, cool, we're going to store that result. Then we're going, now select star from items where user ID equals the ID that we just pulled from over here.
Right.
This is fine and dandy. This will still work. This will still get the thing done.
So you could do it in one.
We can. Does that help?
Yes. Sorry.
No, yeah. So now we need to define users. Users have many items. What we use, we need to represent that as a property of the user table. So prop, and what's the value? What's the data type of? We have a collection of things. I'm trying really hard not to say the word list.
Yeah, really are. It's a list.
Yeah, but it's a list of things. So we can actually just say, hey, you know what? This has a list of to-do items called to-do items. And I'll give this a default value of that. Wrong button. So now we've made users self-aware that they have many to-do items. This is the other part of this relationship.
The many.
The many part.
Mm.
The many part.
Terrible.
Better that time?
Oh. It's two snakes. Ooh, that's pretty good.
Actually, it looks like a self-stick roll.
It's like
You're not wrong.
It does.
It looks like a what?
That's a thing.
What is
Tell you whenever you're older. We got a. So now we've defined this relationship. We can now, instead of going, hey, give me to-do list items, select star from to-do list items or user list items, we actually go, hey, select select the to-do list from the user table. Whew. All right, so I'm going to comment out this. Now up here, we can call this data for right now. Hey, db.users dot where. Yes, Amanda.
You changed. Do you need to do a migration?
I do not.
Why?
Who did I change the structure of the database?
No, it's a row.
I haven't. I'm just giving this more information. I'm not changing anything. My database is still the same.
But you changed a table.
I-
You added to a table.
The row though,
But I
Yeah, but you don't have to.
That's not a
have
column.
It was already
to do
generated.
that.
Yeah,
If
it
it's
was-
like a new category, then you
Yeah.
put a new column.
I'm not adding a column here. I'm not doing anything to the user table. I'm just making it a bit more aware.
Okay.
It's like I gave a book jacket to a book.
You can say a musamon.
A what? I'm not changing it. I'm giving it a little bit more
You're adding.
color.
Okay. Alright, it's frosting.
Yes.
little pizzazz.
Pointer or something.
Right.
It's the buttercream between the cakes. You don't need it, but
But
you
it
need
makes
it.
it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
butter makes everything better.
I know some of y'all love my analogies. So where?
So identifier.
I look back at his lecture and be like, I remember his butter. How do you do that? About
I
jackets. It's gonna help.
It's a thing.
Isn't there always just one thing?
I mean, I love chocolate all yesterday. It happens. It's not the worst thing.
And now we can go, hey, return data dot. Not a where.
Yeah, I was about to say.
That's not how you do this at all, Mark.
I didn't want to say anything.
So now we can say, hey, you know what? Go to the user, grab me the first user, and now since since that relationship is now a property of that list, we can now just return that list. Right? Nice. Let's see if this works. Womp.
Does it need a to list?
It doesn't need a to list. We need to tell it to bring in that table.
Oh.
Is it actually like a dot join?
Close. It's a dot include. Then we tell it what to include. After we bring in the correct namespace.
Using
Needs an
system.
S.
Includes?
Needs an
includes.
S.
Still no.
It was in JavaScript.
Yeah, right? It's using system dot. I've seen it so many times. You know what? Instead of me guessing. What is it, Phil?
Didn't give you a light bulb?
It didn't.
It did.
No, it didn't.
Oh, not there.
Oh.
Down to the bottom.
CSTD library. Saying multiple answers.
You're loading. Include. 47. That's nice. But no actual like namespace.
User.
It is a thing. I know it's a thing. It's in documentation. Let's go to the next link. The actual documentation for it.
This is a good skill. How to Google.
Isn't it?
Oh, there you go.
Microsoft.anyVMware Core. And it's include. There we go.
Nice.
So now this says, hey, go to my database, go to my users table, and now I want to actually include the other table. So why do you want to tell it to include the other table? Potentially, you saw this morning,
Now you're saying.
there's a lot of relationships here, right?
Yeah.
Those database queries could potentially get expensive. And what I mean by expensive, I mean a long running, very long time execution time, and also a lot of data. Right? Johnny Depp has been in a lot of movies, right? I know, right? Whew.
Like a freaking chameleon.
He's everywhere.
I know where this is going.
So So like we want to tell it, oh, we only want to include certain tables. We only want to include certain relationships. Instead of just saying, hey, you don't give me everything all the time. No, we just want to say, hey, give me this, give me this, give me this, give me this. And that's what that includes does. It says, hey, include to me this table, this reference, which is why we added to the FOCO. And since that relationship already exists, we don't have to run a migration. Ta-da. Exact same result, but now we're doing it in one query, that is a join, instead of two queries. How are we feeling?
Can we look at the properties of the user?
Yeah, sure.
Can you, that last property you added, that list, can you just run through that one more time?
Yeah, so we're saying, hey, our class has a list, has many to-do items, right? One user has many things to do. Whenever we have a thing of many objects, it's a list. We can actually put any sort of anything that inherits iQueryable, we could put there. So an iCollection, a collection, an iList, a list, an array, a iQueryable even, anything like that we could put there. We know and like lists the best, so we're going to use lists. But it can be any sort of collection. And we're calling them to-do items because that's the table that I'm reporting to.
Right.
So it's like, that just makes sense. We know what a get and set are. And the last bit, at the very last line, the default action, that says, hey, if we don't have any, return an empty array. That's why, so it will never be null.
Okay.
Because not only can we use this to query, we can also use it to add. So where's our put? Where's our put? Post. Instead of doing something like this, we can now start thinking more user-centric. Instead of just here's a whole bunch of tasks and stuff, we can change the way we're thinking and go, hey, you know what? User.todolistitems.add something goofy. Instead of having to worry about IDs lining up and doing all that jazz for us, we can literally just think, oh, Nemesis added something to do. And that's it. Not person ID 3 added something to ID 5. Both ways of thinking are perfectly fine. You'll probably end up thinking in both ways throughout your career as software developers. But here, this kind of abstracts away the complexities of SQL. So now we're just kind of thinking in objects, right? In things. Hey, we have a user. Hey, they added something to their to-do list.
This noun added that noun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Something smells delicious.
Like cinnamon, right?
It smells like breakfast.
Sounds like Kento's baking. Just
So,
kidding.
That's good.
That is wild.
Well,
the
Just that the entire room was like, sigh, food. That was wild to me, sorry.
yeah.
the
Phil,
dot add isn't going to actually manipulate the data in any way, right? It's
it will
just,
set the foreign key relationship for us. It will do the magic hard work for us. Amanda?
The lines you deleted had a database, which is why we have on line 71 and DB save changes.
Yep. So what did I delete? Let's check out that again, just so we see.
I was just trying to figure out where in line 70 there was specifically a DB to save changes to.
User dot to items dot add
It's
something.
to do items, that's the database. That we're saving the changes of.
Yes.
Okay.
So these two lines, these two chunks of code, 7071 and line 73, those are functionally the same thing. They're doing just two different ways to think about it. One is assigning a user to an item, and one is assigning an item to a user. Which way do we like better? It doesn't matter. Which way do we like better? Let's talk about it.
Bottom one.
The bottom one?
Yes.
Yeah. Whichever one makes the most sense in the current context. Whichever one makes the most semantic sense. Ooh, week one buzzword. Make sure this works. post. Take over the world. I think it's still building. Yep, still building. Still adding it. So now whenever I do my get, there we go. Exact same results, exact same everything, but it's doing all the minutiae of setting up foreign keys for us.
Nemesis has a really tough to-do list.
Yeah. The Nemesis, of course. Anyways, how are we feeling so far? Really good, right?
Yeah, it's all coming together.
I hope so.
Kind of. Like, I still have to connect some dots. I kind of see what's happening and what you're doing. I'm just trying to put all the data sets together and how that's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have to make another doc, but I have to.
You might have to.
Right.
Yeah, I have the same way.
It's like, yeah, I can follow what you do and copy your code and probably get it to work, but could I pull this off on my own? Probably not.
But you did. If you copy his code and it works, you literally just
No, I'm saying without any reference to
No,
his
but you
code
can't do
or-
anything without any reference.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking up references today.
Yeah.
I can build React stuff without references.
My reference is actually still up.
But at some point, you're
But
gonna have to
yeah,
reference
no,
some
but
place.
I do get that thing is like how much of my code is my code, like
Yeah.
because I think you're gonna say the same thing.
No, I don't know. I was gonna say with you this morning completely. First half of lecture, second half, done. Like almost no cognitive understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
And it's so frustrating.
yes, and it's where's that line of using other people's code versus writing your own code? Because you just said like, hey, React code, I understand it, I get it, it's a thing. But here I can follow along, but I'm not quite grasping every single concept. Yeah,
I know will come with time.
it will.
Because it is getting easier to look at and follow.
Mhm.
But I do realize if I didn't understand the first two lectures on this, I would be completely lost today.
Mhm.
So it is built in it.
Actually, I've been doing this for 20 years, and the code part, I never knew. I mean, we're looking at stuff that I've dealt with most of my career, and I never knew how this worked. So it's good that you guys are seeing stuff at a level I've never seen. So it helps understand.
Practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just need practice. It's the big one.
Yes. Follow along, get it to work, do it again. But instead of using the code 100%, maybe you're only going to use the code reference maybe 80%.
Yeah.
And it's all about that repetition practice. Yes, Amanda?
Well, and like the database that was homework for last night.
Yep.
I did that. I had a bunch of references open, and when I took it to a friend's house to show her, and I wrote it, I could fix it without the references. I knew they were right there. I just didn't alt tab over to them because it was like, I think I have this. Until I got to migration, and I was like, what is this stupid line? And I missed the word add. And it was like, okay, fine. So this I can fix. And I went and found it. And I mean, this is the point of having sources, is to, like, resources is to use your resources.
Right.
Like,
Well, I
That's why
think
there's so many of them.
not to be the one who quotes poetry in the middle of coding, but no man is an island.
right.
That's,
Well, I think there's
well, that's another point. There's so many of them. I mean, it's like people are helping each other big time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your brain leaks.
You know, and I mean, a lot of times, most of like when I would go into a project, I would say almost every project there was at least one thing that no one in the room knew how to do. They walk out, figure it out.
And I would bet it's a lot more than one most times. Like,
It is a lot.
I sat in the back of developer meetings for, where like the directors of a software development company are having a meeting. And everybody's taking notes about like this thing that they know none of their guys know how to do yet.
Mm-hmm.
And yet's the important part of that.
Mm-hmm.
This just helped us figure it out faster. That's really what, figure it out much faster.
So let's get a bit more practice in, right? We got a handful of other endpoints to update.
This is why you didn't delete the access token stuff out of the React app from yesterday, right?
Yeah. So our get one access. So our get one here. I'm gonna comment out all of our stuff here. Bring up you. So we could do this the original way, right? We could say, hey, you know what? Find me the user. Okay, cool. Now find me the item. Cool. Or what we can do, we could do var item, because this is get one item. Hey, db.user dot include the to-do list item dot first or default, where user u.access token equals access token. Dot to do items dot first or default
Where ID matches ID.
Yep, item dot ID equals ID.
And then
Item's already declared somewhere, so let's rename this. Drink.
You're saying where the ID in our to-do items table matches our access token?
So this is saying, and for the record, before we dive into this is killing a fly with a sledgehammer. It will get the job done. May or may not be the best way to do it. And may or may not be overkill, but it's a way to do it. We're kind of breaking the walls right now, kind of seeing fighting up against the walls. We're saying, hey, go to my users table, go to db.users, include the to-do items, grab me the first one that matches the access token, grab me the to-do items of that user, then find me the first one that matches the ID. So if we were to follow our diagram up here a little bit, we're coming in here, matching on this, coming over here, then matching on this.
I thought it was the complete opposite.
Yeah, we start out as user, right?
Yeah, we start off
And
at
we go back
user,
to user
because
again.
DB users.
DB users.
Because that's your known at that point.
Yeah.
So you're
Oh,
loading to new items in
DB
there,
users,
going
okay.
to actual to items.
You picking that first known and
Yeah.
saying, let me use my first known and find the next.
Yeah, the first node, and then find the next.
Why can't you just go straight to the ID for in the two items once you
Like
include
this?
it?
Like this?
Yeah.
We could do something like this. But you're talking about once we include it up here?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're doing right here.
But no, can you skip that second line?
This line?
Yeah.
No, because this is narrowed down to one user.
You gotta find nemesis.
I gotta find who's to do this item and
Right.
my searching.
Okay.
Someone else had a question
I did insert down, let Alan go first.
there. Okay.
So in this scenario, is access token is the foreign key?
No, user ID is still the foreign
The
key.
user ID is the foreign.
We're not, all that stuff is hidden on this one line right here. This includes it saying, hey, you know what, we have a foreign key here,
So that's the visual.
join on that.
Okay. Kind of see where I was. My thought process was missing that.
Cool. Amanda and then Phil? Unless Phil has
Let Phil go first.
Okay.
So you're matching the access token key
Yep.
in our user table
Correct.
with the user ID in our to-do items table.
So not the access token, but the ID.
Okay, the ID is matching. It's just matching IDs.
Yes,
Okay.
it's matching that.
This is the sledgehammer way to do this?
This is the sledgehammer way to do this.
This is the way I would have written it, which seems appropriate to who I am as a person. How is there a less sledgehammer way to do this? Like, these are the steps that you need to take. Where's the fly swatter in here?
I probably would have kept with this,
Okay.
to be completely honest. I probably just put like in keep this, make sure that you're a valid user.
Right.
Valid user. You can say, okay, cool, that item exists or that item doesn't exist.
Oh.
But this way we'll guarantee that I can't go in and see your
What
to-do list.
Bagel's to-do lists are when you're doing this.
And that's what that added access token line
Yeah, that's
does,
what this
as
stuff
like an extra lock on
right here. Yeah.
So this is the more defensive way to
Yep.
write it so that people can't mess with it.
Yes. So like we all have a to-do list, right? For what we have to work on for this cohort.
Right.
I can't go, oh, give me your third item in your to-do list. I have to go, hey, am I lived? Okay, cool. Yes, you can see my third item. Versus just give me that one. So cool, that works. Actually, let's test this before we go. That works. Nope.
Will that take longer to run? It will, right?
Probably not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. ID 15.
This depends how long your to-do list is.
Yeah.
How many users you have, because it's cycling through.
That's
No, it's the
true.
first by default, so like it's just gonna stop us in mid.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right.
Oh, what? So it
That's-
was twice?
That's a thing. Yes.
That's annoying.
Yeah. How would we fix this?
Wait, what did it do? And that's how we'll fix it.
So someone else, not Amanda. What did it do? What can we infer that it does?
It made another list of items for.
We told it to include.
Includes. Yeah,
Yeah.
includes is where I
So
did it.
joined again.
Right. So now we need to stop that. We can go, yeah, we actually don't want that. This is where our select comes into play. This is our select star from things. Remember how this morning we were doing like select star from movies and we got all the columns? Even the extra columns that had like ID, actor ID, casting ID, all the extra stuff.
Right.
This is a pleasant side effect of that. Pleasant is probably.
View model.
Yeah. So let's add a view model. It isn't pleasant because I got all my data there, right? That's amazing. I don't want all my data though. I just want that one item. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an item view model, which we haven't yet. Do we have any view models? We do have a view model.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. That sounded way more excited than I probably should be. Item view model. Now what goes inside of our item view model? Well, probably going to be an int ID, right? This is everything that we want to show whenever we hit this endpoint. Which is probably going to be just these things, right?
Text, right?
Text created at completed, false user ID.
Yeah, text incomplete, right? We don't need the. Oh, I guess updated. I guess all of it.
Prop date time, created at, prop date time, updated at. Is that what you do? That's what we really want, right?
This model is just to filter our data? Or?
Yeah, it's to set the structure, define the structure of what our output is.
Oh, okay.
So now, over here, inside of our controller, we're no longer returning a to-do item. Wrong button. We're returning an item view model.
Nice.
And let's add one more thing to our big long list of things here. Right, because we like to chain. Yes, we do. Dot select. A new item view model where ID equals s.id. Text equals s.text. Not a select there. new item view model. Text equals first or default dot text. I spelled created wrong. And user ID equals first or defaults. User ID.
Seems like you're rewriting the entire view model again.
Yeah, I'm a little lost.
So it looks like that because what we're returning is so closely structured to our data. But you notice how we're not actually defining a relationship on our view model. So this does have some differences. Not many, but only a few.
Say we're not defining a relationship on our view model again.
So our view model only has the properties of the item, and that's it.
Because the view model is just what we're showing.
Yeah, this is just what we're showing just for this endpoint. So if we recall the problem again, the problem is that we had all this stuff right here, right? All this extra stuff that we were doing.
And that's pure raw. That's like
Yeah.
everything raw.
Yeah, that's like us is going, hey, you know what? Here's an entire database dump for you. Make sense of the data yourself. I don't want to do that. I want to provide a nice, cleaner endpoint so that whenever I use this on the other side, either myself or my front-end developer, they're not frustrated at me going, why am I getting all this data back? Like I'm sure you were in some APIs in the first
Oh
time,
my gosh,
right?
yeah.
Right?
Pokemon API? No thanks.
Everything. Right?
Just lazy developers
The
that didn't
space
want,
launch?
they just want to leave it open for you.
This one, like, leave it open for you. For stuff like the space launch or the Pokemon one, they're like, here's everything. I don't know what you need. I don't know what you want. Gotta catch them all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, But here it's like, no, we only want to return just the stuff. So we're going to make a new blueprint that says, hey, here's what we want to return, and that's it. Is it going to look a lot like our other one? Probably.
But it'll be sifted some.
But yeah, but what?
But it'll be sifted some.
Yeah, it won't be as much. It won't be as much stuff there. It'll be different. The database can now change without this changing.
Oh, no, yeah,
Okay,
better now.
better? Cool. There were some questions or some hands up?
No, I was just gonna add context, but never mind.
Okay.
You know what comes out tomorrow?
What?
You know what comes out tomorrow?
What's up tomorrow?
The Harry Potter version of Pokemon.
Oh. What?
With monster.
It works. But yeah, that's nuts.
Select wizards? What do you do?
You duel.
You collect wizards?
I
I actually don't know, like, it's just a clone to me, so it's like, oh, that's cool. But Harry Potter's fun.
Is it a mod
It
or
has, no, it's an actual official thing.
is it?
I have a lot of feels about that. Live.
Can you slide back to that view model for just a moment?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What is it called?
So, fun fact, Pokemon Go is written in C#.
Is it?
Opogo.
I almost don't believe that.
It's literally called Harry Potter.
It's
No,
on
it's
the
not. It's
like
called
First
Wizardry.
Nation Card
not
Academy. It's
kidding.
like you do lots of fun things with C#. Pokemon Go.
I almost don't believe that.
Yeah.
Just because of what I know about
Who's name is here?
Let me see if I can find
stuff.
Wow. Oh, the answers, yeah.
It's a Harry Potter Wizards Unite.
Dude, that's
it. What,
actually
like, what's
a big
the
deal.
immediate challenge that comes up in your head?
It's probably
So-
yeah.
I'll deconstruction this for like 30 seconds.
Okay.
They really messed up a long ago.
Just make sure that's fine. Yeah, so for 30 seconds, cross-platform. There are C# tools for cross-platform development, like Xamarin. I don't know how well they transfer to gaming platforms and 3D graphics. So that's the first thing that pops to my head. The second thing is the backend stuff that they're doing. For some reason, I thought it was in Java. Only because I know that there's a lot of not partnership, but buddy with the Niantic developers and the Google team. And C# I know is not a big language for the Google internal tools. So I just kind of like, that's weird. And yeah, I'm just kind of, I don't know, healthily skeptic.
Okay. Interesting. I want to just find that article.
Yeah, and if that's the thing, I'd love to start saying that. I mean, right?
No, they really do hype you up about C# in this code campaign.
Yeah. The only one I like to say is Stack Overflow is written on C# and .NET, which we may or may not be building next week as a homework assignment.
Oh, rebuilding Stack Overflow?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That makes me excited.
Speaking of homework, to pivot slightly off the topic of homework.
Oh,
Hey Mark, what's your homework?
it is new.
Yay.
It is Thursday.
Thursday.
Awesome. Our homework for tonight, weekend homework, is take your inventory API and add a one-to-many relationship to it. I'll define out what exactly it is inside the homework. But it's going to be doing pretty much what we did today, but doing it to your own API.
That's cool.
Yeah, right? I love it. Also, capstones. This is a awesome chance to really get ahead on the HTML, CSS, and React side of your capstone, as well as modeling out your database and your endpoints to what you think you will need. You have been working on your capstones, front end, wireframes. You roughly know what data is coming, you have to deal with. So now you need to take a turn and look at the other end of that and go, hey, how do I store this in a database? What do my POCOs look like? What are my endpoints going to be inning and outing? And what's the return values here? So start thinking and defining that. That's what we're doing.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. With me at 3 will happen today. It will be a thing. You notice we did one-to-manys, right? Let's do many-to-many. We'll do a many-to-many at 3 o'clock. Does that sound good? All right, homework will be out by the end of lunch. I'll see all 3.
So when I'm looking at the article, it mentions Stack Overflow, but it also says,
Trying to break it up.
but it says respectively.
This phone screen has to be gorgeous.
Why is this the FlexWrap issue? That now my IDs are
So yeah,
not
You
numbered?
see,
yeah, you need to begin that you C#
So
too.
right, it's a 205 and 199 is all over here.
On that React question, I'll get with you later.
Okay.